that one of the things I've learned over the years is that cloning is a very powerful mental model. And the second thing I've learned, which is I still don't know exactly why this is the case, but humans are really bad at cloning. So what I repeatedly notice about humans is they'll see something great going on somewhere. And they'll even acknowledge, oh, that's wonderful. But they won't clone it. And so it is the inversion of that is that if you are a cloner, you get a huge advantage in life because the rest of humanity is not good at cloning. I see it repeatedly. The foundation we have, Dakshina Foundation, it works well because it's a clone model. I could never come up with that model, but I could copy it. The Pabrai Fund's fee structures and the way it's set up, I could never come up with it, but I could clone it. And I never realized how powerful that cloning was. So one of the things the Buffett partnerships did was Warren Buffett charged no management fee, and he only charged a performance fee. So he told his investors that the first 6% of returns every year go to them, and then above that he gets 1/4 and they get 3/4. So for example, if the fund is up 10%, Buffett would get 1%. Whereas in let's say a normal 2 and 20 hedge fund, the fund is up 10%, well, 2% is already gone first to the investment manager, and then you're left with 8 and another 1.6 would go. So instead of 1% going to the manager in this particular example, it would be 3.6%. And if you have, just in terms of math, because when you get to these geometric series, if you have one investment with a manager who does 10% a year and keeps taking 1%, and another investment with another manager who does 10% a year and keeps taking 3.6%, the delta in those two after 30 years is not going to be 20 or 30%. It may be 80 or 90%. There'd be a massive difference because the power of compounding, you'd be compounding lower numbers, a significantly lower number over time. So the zero fee structure that Buffett used, I cloned it because I thought that sounds very fair. And it took me a few years to realize, probably like more than 4 or 5 years to realize that not only was it a very fair structure, but it gave me a competitive advantage that hardly any competitors could copy. And so the interesting thing is, so what happens in most investment shops is that they are set up with a 1 and 20 or 2 and 20, or if there's a mutual fund, 1% fee or whatever else. And if you have, for example, $100 million under management, and you have a 2 and 20 structure, for example, you're guaranteed to get in about $2 million a year. And what a lot of these investment shops will then do is they'll have teams of people because they can afford to have 1 or even 1.5 million of payroll, and that's covered. The zero fee structure means that you could easily have 1 or more years where there is no revenue to the firm. If I'm up 4% in a year, there's no revenue. It's zero. There are some expenses, but there's no revenue. And so the second part of what this fee structure enables, which is also part of the Buffett and Munger system, is investment teams are an oxymoron. So value investing is not a team sport. It is an individual pursuit, and it should be an individual pursuit. And so when you start having teams of people, generally speaking, the results will suffer. So like I think like John Bogle used to say that in investing, you get what you don't pay for. Okay, so the bottom line is that it's a very bizarre industry. It's one of the only industries where 80% of the participants in the industry add no value. They subtract value. So the industry would be better off if it was smaller, if there were fewer people in it. And so the rules I copied from the Buffett partnership, one of those was the zero fee structure, the 0-6-25. And as it happened with Pabrai funds is that we had no down years from 99 to 2007. It was just straight up. In fact, I think before fees, we did kind of mid 30% a year. So even after fees, we were doing high 20s a year. And then when the financial crisis hit, the funds got hit pretty hard. We were down, one of the funds were down 70%. So pretty significant drawdown, which meant that for me to collect a fee, I had to first come up to par and then the 6% a year for as long as it took to get up. And in one of the funds that I run, it took 10 years. So I collected a fee in 2007 in that fund, and the next time I collected a fee was 2017. But that was the covenant I had with my investors, so it never crossed my mind that I should shut down and restart. I think that's kind of unethical. And I neither did I go to them to change the terms. So we kept to those terms. And but the thing is that this is a business with some spectacular economics. So if I am, for example, managing 500 million, and for example, if I'm up 20% in a year, my fee would be 3.5%, which is, sort of like almost $17 million. And at Pabrai Funds, there are no full-time employees other than me. Because, I already told you, a team is an oxymoron. And so it's a business where there isn't much expense. And so almost all of that 17 million would drop to the bottom line. Maybe we'd have $500,000 or something in expenses. So the thing is that when it works really well. And if you made 17 million 1 year, well, you can have a few lean years, So I don't have any complaints about the structure or any of that. And I think it's very fair. I think it's worked out very well, and no issues. But also the interesting thing about this fee structure is I interact with a lot of young managers, and they'll come to me and ask me, I'm setting up a fund and blah, blah. And I know at the back of my mind, humans are terrible at cloning. So I play a game with them, right? Now that they'll see it on video, it'll all be over. So sad. Okay. And so I'll tell them, zero fees and, no team, blah, blah. I'll give them all the pointers of what to do. And then I just sit back and observe what actually happens. No one does zero fee. And no one does no team. It's like they listen from here, it's out here, and yeah, whatever. And I even try to explain to them why it's a competitive advantage and why it's worked for me and so on and so forth. And they can see that it works. But still, because cloning is not part of the human genetic framework, they can't handle it. And so I have to sit here with my competitive advantage unblemished, which is fine. So such is life. I could not come up with these ideas on my own. I came up with this idea from Warren and Charlie, and I copied it. So one of the most important models that you can adopt is the model of cloning. When you see someone doing something smart, just incorporate it. That's a good way to go.